got to tell you this. It's funny. So leading up to the RNC, we're writing our speech and we're going through it, and we're editing it internally, all of us. Great team, and we submit it to the RNC, the folks. I think we submitted probably a week prior, and we submit the speech, and some of the underlings in the RNC didn't like what we had to say.
I bet.
And so they wanted to change it, modify it, and everything else. And we took a position. I took a position. Well, I'm not going then.
That's the way, right there.
So we reached out to Susie Wiles and told her, look, we are not modifying this speech. And she's like, I don't think you should. She says, why don't you call DJT and tell him? So I called him on his cell phone. And I said, listen, they want us to modify this speech. He goes, I haven't seen it. He goes, I don't give a shit what you say. Do whatever you want, Sean.
Oh, come on.
So 100% true.
Oh, I believe.
So when we went there, I mean, obviously we were there.
I can hear him saying that.
Yeah. So he's like, actually said, say whatever the fuck you want to say. That's exactly what he said. And when we went there, it was great.
Corporatists hate when working people join together to form unions. But for a century, major employers have waged a war against labor by forming corporate unions of their own. We need to call the Chamber of Commerce and the business roundtables what they are. They are unions for big business. And here's another fact. Against gigantic multinational corporation, an individual worker has zero power. It's only when Americans band together in democratic unions that we win real improvements on wages, benefits, and working conditions. Companies like Amazon are bigger than most national economies. Amazon is valued over $2 trillion. That makes it the 14th largest economy in the world. What is sickening is that Amazon has abandoned any national allegiance. Amazon's sole focus is on lining its own pockets. Remember, elites have no party, elites have no nation. Their loyalty is to the balance sheet and to the stock price at the expense of the American worker.
So that was Teamsters union leader Sean O'Brien, and he recently went on the show with Tucker Carlson, and I want to talk about that because he said something that was quite interesting within this interview, this sit down with Tucker, that I've kind of been talking about a little bit, right? And that is that Democrats are not who they claim to be. Because my thing is, if you have to constantly try to tell people who you are, you're probably not that person. Because if you were, we would know it. Example, right? Democrats are always trying to claim the moral high ground, making it seem and sound as if they are the loving and caring folks. Well, if you were really that loving and caring, would you have to tell us that? You wouldn't have to, right? We would just know this. It would be obvious. We would see through your daily actions. We would know through experience with the Democrat Party that they are the loving and caring side, but we don't. And that is why they have to constantly tell us. But Teamsters union leader Sean O'Brien had an interesting experience with the Democrat Party that I want to share with you guys. So with that being said, let's dive in.
Voters who have reached this.
I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. This is hilarious. And I think you know me by now. I call balls and strikes, and I'm going to say what's on my mind regardless. So the Democrats are trying to court us to endorse Joe Biden in January, right? And Joe Biden has been a good president for us, labor. Has he done everything we wanted? No, absolutely not. Again, you get into, we fixed your pension. Great, thank you. Your first order of business, you shut down oil drilling, you shut down pipelines. I got 7,000 members that lost their jobs immediately, Keystone, right? So, I started pointing out some of that stuff to them, which I was quiet about in the beginning. But, you're out there jockeying for our support. And they want us to endorse Biden in January. All of labor did. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. We've got to talk to our members. We're going to make sure where our members are at. So we go through this whole winter, getting pressure from, people in the Democratic Party. And we stayed the course. Nope, we're not. We want to interview the candidates, which we've never done before. And we asked every single candidate in January or December to come in and meet with us. The first person to respond was Donald Trump. I'll be in there, definitely, without a doubt. And all these other candidates, RFK right away, Asa Hutchinson, Cornel West, all of them, they came right in. Same format, same questioning like we talked about earlier. And the struggle was getting Biden in here. He didn't like the fact that Trump committed early, or the Democrats didn't like that he committed early. So long story short, we go through this whole process, and we have Biden in there, and, you could just clearly tell he was, not the man he was. And it was kind of sad, because it's sad because you look at it and I think generally, a nice older man, nice older gentleman, right? And what they were doing to him, the Democratic Party, it would kind of look like elderly abuse to me.
Yes.
And, we knew we weren't going to go with him. And then after the first debate.
Wait, but so in your meeting with him, it was obvious that he wasn't.
It was. So we give 16 questions 2 weeks in advance, the same 16 questions to each candidate. So, RFK answered all 16 questions.
Before he continues, so it was completely obvious to him early on that Joe Biden was not Joe Biden. And yet the Democrat Party continued to lie to us and tell us that he was completely fine. Karine Jean-Pierre said he was her mentor. What else? Joe Scarborough got on national television and said, F you if you don't believe this. Joe Biden, this is the best version of Joe Biden ever. I believe it was Mayorkas said the hardest thing to do when meeting with Joe Biden is preparing for the meeting, because he's so detail oriented. But Sean O'Brien sat down with him once and was like, "Yeah, this is elderly abuse. This ain't Joe. This is something different. Something's going on here." One meeting. That's the first interesting piece, but let's keep listening.
Probably most of them didn't answer him how we would like them to answer him, but they answered him. Joe Biden came in and he answered 5 of them. Donald Trump answered all 16. And then when Biden drops out of the race, but prior to Biden dropping out of the race, he's in the race around June or May. One of my vice presidents, a woman named Joan Corey out of my local, she sits on our general executive board, was at an event with Vice President Harris. And, they're going through the line to get the picture, and Joan introduces herself to Vice President Harris, says, "I'm Joan Corey. I'm on the general executive board for the Teamsters." She goes, "Teamsters? You better get on board. You better get on board. Better get on board soon." Says it to my vice president.
To her face?
To her face. So she comes back. We have the meeting the next day.
Damn.
And she tells me this.
I thought I was arrogant. That's really arrogant.
So she tells me this. So I call up Marty Walsh. He wasn't the Secretary of Labor, but, he was pushing hard for us to make the endorsement. I'm like, let me ask you a question, Marty. Excuse my French. Who does this fucking lady think she is? Like, if I want to support from any organization, I am not going to point my finger in someone's face and say, you better get on board or else. But that's the attitude of this whole party. So fast forward, she finally agrees to come after we were putting pressure on her, basically, because I was doing interviews all over the place saying, we haven't got invited to the DNC. They haven't accepted our invitation for her to come to a roundtable. So she comes to the roundtable. Same format, same questions. Rank and file members are asking her questions just like they asked every other candidate. And they were trying to negotiate with us. She only wants to answer 3 questions. We're like, there's 16 questions here. So she answers 3 of them. And on the 4th question, one of her operatives or one of her staff slips a note in front of me. This will be the last question. And it was 20 minutes earlier than the time that it was going to end.
Come on.
100%. And so, you're there trying to get our support. And her declaration on the way out was, I'm going to win with you or without you.
She thought that or said it out loud?
She said it out loud.
That's insane.
So,
That's crazy behavior, actually, if you think about it.
It was insane behavior, which at that point in time, I knew she was going to lose. Me, that's just my unqualified opinion. I got a gut instinct, and I'm like,
Well, you turned out to be right.
someone this arrogant, forget anything else, but you put your finger in someone's face at an Emily's List event once you find out they're with the Teamsters, and you say, you better get on board or else. That's a problem. And then you come before us, you don't answer the question, you want to dictate what you're going to answer, and then you leave 20 minutes before it's over. And the one difference between all the candidates that came was that at the conclusion of all these roundtables, we had media set up. So after conclusion of meeting with Trump, I did a press conference down in the lobby of my building. Well, Donald Trump did a press conference down in the lobby of my building after he spoke. The same offer was extended to both President Biden and Vice President Harris, and they refused. So you're meeting with the biggest labor organization that you want, and you've got an opportunity for media to question you about how you felt the meeting went and what you wanted to achieve, and you don't want to speak to the media. That's a problem. But Trump, to his credit, in our building, in our foyer, had a press conference.
So you're describing the way like a rich person would talk to the housekeeper, like, how dare you question me?
Right.
You
Yeah.
work for me.
Right. They don't realize that, and I've said this numerous times, when I'm talking to a member, whoever that member may be, regardless of race, religion, color, creed, I know that they give me the opportunity to represent them, and they employ me.
Yeah.
Right? And I've said this many times. The Democrats got to understand who they work for. They work for the constituency that they represent in their communities.
Exactly.
And that's where they've lost sight of who their employer is. They think that the constituency should serve them.
Exactly.
And it's,
It's quite interesting, right? And it's completely true. The Democrat Party, the elected officials feel like they should be served, but that's only their constituents' fault. They don't vote these people out. I'm happy that on the Republican side of the aisle, especially now, right? Maybe in the past it wasn't this way, but now when we sniff out a rhino, Liz Cheney, a major example, we get them the F out. I mean, that Liz Cheney lost by like 30 points. I mean, it was a landslide against Liz Cheney. Landslide. As a matter of fact, a lot of the folks that came out against Trump, a lot of those folks got voted out. Now, there are still some left, and we're going to work on those too. And as I said before, we ain't playing around. I'm not playing around. And all of y'all was like, yeah, no, Rich, we agree. We done with the games. These rhinos try to get in the way of Trump's agenda. We voting them out. We are voting them out. We are going to make sure that these people understand and know that they work for us, not the other way around. We don't work for them. They work for us. Now, I got to do a little weave here, as Uncle Trump was saying. We got to double back to, the arrogance of the Democrat Party, man. The arrogance. Get in line or else. I'm going to win with or without you. Wow. Got to ask 3 questions. Hey, this will be the last question. Slip them a note, oh, man, the arrogance of the Democrat Party, man. But like I said, I feel like part of that is because of their voters. Their voters allow that to happen. And it's a shame that the Democrat Party, elected officials take advantage of it, because they shouldn't. If they were these great people as they claim to be, they wouldn't ever dare do something like that. Okay? Fall in line or else. We're going to win with or without you. But they always accuse Trump of being that type of guy, right? They always accuse Trump of being that type of guy that's going to put his finger in your face. Hey, get in line. You better give me loyalty or else. And yet it's been them the entire time. It's been them the entire... Yet another example of the Democrat Party's hypocrisy. They accuse Trump and Republicans of what they are or what they are doing. Happens every single time. And this is yet another example of it. Shout out to Teamsters leader Sean O'Brien for, speaking the truth and not hiding that story to protect the Democrat Party, because he could have easily just, kept that close to chest and just not said anything and kind of hush, sweep it under the rug. No. Shout out to Teamster. Shout out to Sean O'Brien, man, for revealing that story, because that's important to show America who Democrats really are behind the scenes. Not when they get on camera and put on this act and smile in your face and, ooh, I'm holier than thou, when they put on their acting persona. But behind the scenes, when the cameras aren't on and they're talking to folks, that's who they really are. It's who they really are. Glad I'm not a part of that party. But let me know your thoughts and your opinions, of course. Peace and love. I'm out.